I just trimmed my beard, and seriously, the amount of beard I trimmed off was more hair than I used to have on my entire body, minus my head hair. So thank you, testosterone. Hey spuds, how's it going? I hope you're well. It's Jamie, welcome back to another video, your first video. I don't know, but welcome. I hope you're gonna enjoy it here. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. That's getting too long, I need to cut it down a bit, sorry. So who's heard of the term cis or cisgender? Basically, cis is a Latin prefix. It is old, right? It's also been used in chemistry. It's a well-established thing to use as a descriptor for things that are on the same side of. So cis just means the same side of. And trans means on the other side of. So they're kind of complementary. Cis and trans, they just mean opposite things. So they are used in terms of gender. Transgender is me, and is somebody who is a different gender to their assigned birth sex. So I was assigned female at birth, but I am a man. So I'm transgender. Cisgender is just an easier way of saying not transgender. It just means people who have the same gender identity and sex. Hurrah! Cisgender. It is a adjective, it's a descriptor. If you say cis, it's a prefix. But some people are very unhappy about it. People started saying cis is a slur, or it's not right, like don't call me cis, like refusing to be called cis. I think a lot of it comes from like a little bit of transphobia, where it's like, oh, trans people are like the others. There's like trans women and trans men, but I am just a woman, or I am just a man. Don't be calling me cis because that's all this transy nonsense. That's the kind of general logic, and lack of logic, behind it. But really, it's just because trans people exist in society, and trans women are women and trans men are men, as are cis men are men and cis women are women, and it's just an easy way to distinguish between the two when it's needed. But some people are very unhappy about this, as I've already described, so I thought today we would go through some prime examples of cis people saying that cis is a slur, and being like, don't call me cis, I'm not cis. I mean, I'm not cis because I'm trans, but if you're not trans, you're cis. Cis. Don't call me cis, I'm a woman. Me. Okay. Don't call me trans, I'm a woman. Cis. Deep thought, confusion, calculating, how does this add up? How can this work? The pure confusion. But you're a trans woman, how can you just be a woman? The clue is in the word woman. It is the reason why we have trans and cis, because both trans and cis women are women, and neither should be singled out for that prefix. So it's unfair to say we have women and trans women, because it's othering trans women and saying that trans women do not belong with other women when they do. So trans and cis women, all under the lovely little umbrella of women. Not cis, just a woman. Subtle. Subtle. Am I allowed to do this? I don't know. Does that count as swearing in a video? Again, you could be like, not trans, just a woman. I would say, not trans, just a man. I am a man. I am a man. That is it. Okay, cool. I think what this kind of shows is like a lack of understanding of what it actually means to use these prefixes. It's not taking away from the fact that you are a woman. It's an adjective, it's a descriptor. It's how you would say like separating short and tall women, or brunette and blonde women. It's trans and cis women. It's like saying not blonde, just a woman. I don't have cis privilege. Don't call me cis. I don't identify as cis. You have male privilege. Why is it on such a retro-looking meme with a scorpion? Does anybody understand the relevance of a scorpion on this? I don't have cis privilege. Don't call me cis. You have male privilege. I have male privilege as a trans man. For sure, but I don't have cis privilege because I'm not cis, but a cis person would have cis privilege. You can have male privilege, but I face discrimination because I am trans. I do not have cis privilege, whereas somebody who is not trans, who is cis, even if they don't like being called cis, does have cis privilege. But they can have cis privilege without having male privilege. Does this make sense? Seeing as we're partway through, just as a reminder, cisgender definitely has its origin in the Latin-derived prefix cis, and the earliest known gender-related use of this prefix in any language is 1914, over 100 years ago, and it's been in like the last 2 to 5 years. I mean, really the last 2, it's kind of like exploded in the number of people getting annoyed by the term cis. But just for reference, it has been around for a long time. Cisgender is a bullshit term. Well, I think its origins and its 100 plus year use in terms of gender alone, it's been used a lot longer in other terms like in chemistry and things like that. I think that kind of rules it out of being a bullshit term. I think some people just don't like it because they don't really like trans people. I just hate the word cisgender. I just hate it. I hate it so much. I mean, I could hate the word transgender, but it doesn't stop it from being an accurate term for me. Oh, and I found this terrible shop. I'm not gonna say what the name is, I'm not gonna link to it because honestly, the less attention you pay it, the better. But I did find some terrible things on there, not just related to people getting upset about being called cis, but like really quite transphobic stuff, and they're literally selling it in a shop, and it just made me really uncomfortable. But for the context of this video, we're talking about the cis related, the cis specific, the specifically cis things that they are selling. The first one is a badge. Don't call me cis. Don't call me cis, 25mm feminist button badge. I automatically assume when things are like in the no, like, you know, the little circle and the line through it, that's like the negative. So it should say, call me cis, with like a big do not, like, no stamp on top of it. But it's like, don't call me cis. So it's more like, don't call me cis, so therefore call me cis. People are allowed to say, hey, don't call me that. But as a trans person, I can also be like, hey, don't call me trans. Like, just call me a man. And that's equally as fair. But then when my transness became relevant in a conversation and had to be distinguished between trans and cis, then the descriptor's gonna come in. Woman, not cis. The quotation marks, I'm not gonna do that. Cis is a very real, established prefix. It's not like some made up thing that deserves quotation marks. The way it's written here, it's like woman not cis, as if it's like woman not man, as if cis is something you can't possibly be if you're a woman, whereas it is a category within the umbrella of woman. Now I'm just repeating myself, but it's because it's so frustrating that people like pretend that cis is like this other thing, and that if you're described as cis, you're being disrespected in some way. Cis is a slur. I've never heard any straight person ever use this word. There is no need for it, just say straight. Oh no. The only context I have seen it is from LGBT peeps, referring to non-LGBT people in a hateful or demeaning manner. The word is not only redundant, but even sounds like cist, which certainly ain't nice. I get that people want words they can identify with, and that's fine, but I'm sure most people who are cis don't identify with this word at all. Just because you'd rather use this word does not mean everyone else wants to be referred to that way. Just say straight. This one is definitely coming from a place of not being sure what the term cis means. It's a very old prefix that has accidentally ended up sounding like the word cist. That's not anybody's fault, it's just what happens sometimes. It also has nothing to do with sexual orientation. You can be cis and be any sexual orientation, or you can be trans and be any sexual orientation. It is separate. It is not like a thing that is used to describe straight people. It is a thing that is used to describe people who are not trans when that distinction needs to be made. And in terms of not identifying with the word, it's an adjective. It's like saying you don't identify with the word blue for your eyes, you just want them to be called eyes. Sometimes a distinction needs to be made between people with blue eyes and people with brown eyes. I wish people could see it as not like a bad thing, and I think it's people who see like trans people in general as a bad thing, and like trans people getting more rights as a bad thing, because then it's like, oh, this is like impeding on my life now because suddenly there's this new term. And then we're gonna end on a subreddit I found called Cis Privilege is a lie. I don't know if it's still around, I found this a while ago. But yeah, apparently cis privilege is a lie, according to this subreddit. Women are sometimes said to have privilege for being born as women and for having female bodies. This is a space to counter that narrative and show the truth. Women are oppressed under patriarchy all over the world, and this subreddit is dedicated to collecting stories that highlight the absurdity of the notion that the commonplace abuse and violence women face at the hands of men is somehow a privilege. So trans people do not have cis privilege. They're discriminated against for being trans, and rights that trans people don't have that cis people do have. So there is a discussion to be had there, but it does not in any way impede on the fact or take away from the fact that women still need equality, and there are still issues issues within that and rights to be gained and progress to be made. But it does not mean that cis privilege is fake. So yeah, that's everything I had to discuss today. I really wanted to make a video on this because I think some people are getting very hurt over the use of the word cis when it really is just an adjective. Trans people are still discriminated against, and discriminated against in ways that cis people are not. And there are definitely times when there needs to be a distinction between trans and cis. And just as a final reminder, cis has been used in terms of gender for over 100 years. So why some people are having a problem about it, I don't know. They're very late to the party and the discussion. Yeah, that's everything for today. I want to hear your opinions on this discussion down below. I'm really sorry if I did not describe things in the best way. I tried. Let me know if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to, but no pressure, and I'll see you next time. Much love. Bye!